What does it feel like to watch everything you believed in crumble before your eyes, knowing that your next decision could either save your legacy or destroy completely? Toronto Maple Leafs fans are living through this exact nightmare as their front office prepares to replace Mitch Marner's 102-point masterpiece with a 23-year-old who couldn't even crack 20 goals last season. And they're calling it progress. The Marner apocalypse. When superstars walk away, the writing isn't just on the wall for Mitch Marner's departure from Toronto. It's been spray-painted in neon colors and posted on every billboard in the city. GM Brad Treliving's recent media comments deliver the final blow to any remaining hope. Unless there's significant change here, I would anticipate he's going to hit the market. Let that sink in for a moment. The Maple Leafs are about to lose a player who recorded 27 goals and 75 assists for 102 points in 81 games last season. We're not talking about replacing a decent contributor or a solid role player. We're talking about finding someone to fill the void left by one of the NHL's premier playmakers, a creative force who makes everyone around him exponentially better. This is the kind of loss that devastates franchises. Marner isn't just a stat sheet. He's the heartbeat of Toronto's offense. The player who turns ordinary scoring chances into highlights and transforms mediocre line mates into productive contributors. His departure represents more than losing 102 points. It's losing the creative engine that drives their entire offensive philosophy. And how does Toronto plan to replace this irreplaceable talent? By rolling the dice on Dawson Mercer, a $12 million question mark, whose recent performance suggests he might be trending in the wrong direction, just when the Maple Leafs need him to step up most. The Mercer mirage, potential or false hope. Here's where the story gets truly fascinating and potentially disastrous. Dawson Mercer represents everything that's both exciting and terrifying about modern NHL roster construction. At 23, he's young enough to dream about untapped potential while being expensive enough to bankrupt those dreams if they don't materialize. NHL analyst Anthony Petrielli captures the intoxicating appeal of Mercer. Young players who can skate and put the puck in the net are enticing any way you slice it. Mercer is still young enough to believe there's a bit more to unearth. But here's the uncomfortable reality hiding behind that optimism. Mercer's numbers tell a story of decline, not development. 2 seasons ago, he exploded for 27 goals and 56 points, looking like the breakout star that every GM dreams of acquiring. Last season, a disappointing 19 goals and 36 points in 82 games. Numbers that suggest his breakthrough might have been an aberration rather than a preview of future greatness. The Devils clearly see something concerning in Mercer's trajectory. NHL insider Nick Kiprios notes that New Jersey is actively shopping him, despite his youth and potential. When a team is willing to trade a 23-year-old former first-round pick, it usually means they've seen enough to know he's not the answer they were hoping for. The positional experiment. Playing with fire, Petrielli's suggestion to use Mercer at center alongside William Nylander sounds like either inspired roster construction or a recipe for defensive disaster. The theoretical upside is obvious. 2 skilled defensive players creating scoring chances and putting up points. The practical downside could be catastrophic. I'd be curious to see the Leafs stick him at center for half a season alongside William Nylander and evaluate his progress, Petrielli wrote, before adding the crucial question. Could those two cut it together defensively? That question should keep Maple Leafs fans awake at night. We're talking about pairing a player who struggled to reach 20 goals with one of the league's most offensively gifted but defensively questionable forwards. If Mercer can't handle the increased offensive responsibilities that come with playing center, Toronto could find themselves with a line that gets dominated in their own zone. The experiment becomes even more risky when you consider the stakes. The Maple Leafs aren't rebuilding. They're trying to maximize a championship window that's already showing signs of closing. They can't afford to spend half a season evaluating progress, while their competitors are winning games and building momentum. The Devils' desperation. Red flags everywhere. Perhaps the most telling aspect of this entire situation is New Jersey's apparent eagerness to move Mercer. GM Tom Fitzgerald has publicly stated his intention to find more offense this summer and promised not to return with the same group of players. Eric Howla has already been traded to Nashville, and Mercer appears to be next on the chopping block. Think about what this means. The Devils, a team desperate for offensive production, are willing to trade a young forward who they believe has untapped potential. Either New Jersey's management is completely incompetent, or they've seen enough of Mercer to know he's not the solution they need. Kyprios provides additional context that should concern any team considering a trade. He's now 2 years removed from a 27-goal, 56-point breakout season. After failing to hit the 20-goal plateau in 2024-25, he might be a player the Devils try and use to find a better roster fit. Translation: Mercer peaked early and has been declining since. The Devils want to trade him while his reputation still exceeds his recent production, hoping some team will pay for potential rather than performance. The championship window reality check: the Maple Leafs find themselves in the most precarious position in professional sports, competing against time of core that's getting older and more expensive while getting no closer to their ultimate goal. Austin Matthews is entering his prime. John Tavares is approaching the twilight of his career, and William Nylander just signed a massive extension that needs to pay immediate dividends. Adding Mercer to this mix represents a massive gamble on player development at a time when Toronto needs sure things, not projects. His $6 million average annual value over the next 2 seasons isn't prohibitive, but it becomes catastrophic if he doesn't produce at a level that justifies the investment. The Maple Leafs are essentially betting that they can develop Mercer into the player the Devils couldn't, despite having less time and more pressure to win immediately. It's the kind of move that either looks brilliant in hindsight or becomes a cautionary tale about misplaced faith in potential overproduction. The asset management nightmare acquiring Mercer won't just cost Toronto whatever assets they send to New Jersey. It will also cost them the opportunity to pursue other options. In a salary cap league, every dollar committed to one player is a dollar unavailable for alternatives. If Mercer doesn't work out, the Maple Leafs will have wasted precious resources and time they can't afford to lose. The ripple effects extend beyond Mercer himself. If Toronto commits significant assets to acquiring him, they'll have fewer resources available to address other roster needs. Their defense still has questions, their goaltending situation requires attention, and their depth could use improvement. Trading for Mercer means betting everything on his development while hoping other issues resolve themselves. The moment of truth to Dawson Mercer situation perfectly encapsulates the modern NHL's most challenging dilemma. How do you balance present needs against future potential when your championship window is measured in years, not decades? The Maple Leafs are facing this reality in its most acute form, knowing that their next moves could determine whether they finally break through or become another cautionary tale about talent squandered. Mercer represents hope for a franchise that's been surviving on hope for far too long. His youth and skill set suggest he could develop into the player Toronto needs, but his recent trajectory raises serious questions about whether that development will happen quickly enough to matter. The Devils' willingness to trade him, combined with his declining production, creates a perfect storm of risk that would make most GMs pause. But the Maple Leafs aren't in a position to be cautious. They're in a position where they need to find solutions, even if those solutions come with significant risk attached. This is franchise-defining territory, where the difference between championship and disappointment could come down to whether a 23-year-old former first-round pick can rediscover the magic that made him special 2 seasons ago. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the margin for error couldn't be smaller. What's your take on Toronto's potential pursuit of Mercer? Is he the hidden gem who could surprise everyone and help fill Marner's massive void? Or would the Leafs be making a costly mistake by betting on declining potential? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button if this kind of high-stakes roster analysis gets your hockey blood pumping as much as it does mine.